Imani.
And I'm Mary.
Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are new here, You Book Club is a podcast where the two of us read YA novels and then get together to discuss and analyze them.
So, for this episode, we read The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Beddor. We'll be talking about the whole thing, so spoiler alert, if you haven't read it, you can come back after you have, or you can stick with us, but be prepared to have the events in the book spoiled for you, because
that's
talking about the whole book.
That's literally
the point.
The
point is to talk about the book. Also, if you have any suggestions for books we should read next time, feel free to tweet them at us at It's Ya Book Club on Twitter. We also have a website. I don't think you can contact us through it, though.
No, but there is a
Twitter.
link to Twitter.
Yes. So if you're on our website, go to Twitter, tweet at us, tell us what books we should read next time. Okay, let's get started.
Yeah. So, this time, we actually, with the new year, new format, new us. So we're actually going to just read a very short summary of the books, just because we figured that if you've already read the book, you don't need the summary to be told to you again. And also, if you haven't read the book, the summary is probably not going to help you. You probably wouldn't track with it, because we're not super coherent when we're excited. So
we just go, oh, and this thing, and this thing.
So we decided to get back to our roots, and our roots are characters and people. So
yeah.
So that's what we're going to focus on. So, with that being said, here's the summary of The Looking Glass Wars. Wonderland is real, but Lewis took some liberties. Real-life Alice Hart is destined to be the most powerful queen of Wonderland. However, on her 7th birthday, her estranged Aunt Red stages a coup, murders her parents, and assumes control of the queendom. With the help of her mother's bodyguard, Hatter Madigan, Alice escapes through the Pool of Tears to Earth. 13 years pass, and Alice has accepted that her childhood memories are just fantasy. But when her wedding gets crashed by Red's chief assassin, the Cat, Alice must remember her childhood destiny. She returns to Wonderland to join forces with the Elysians, Wonderland's resistance group, sworn protectors of white imagination and the Hart family legacy. She, with the help from the Caterpillars, locate the Looking Glass Maze and unlock her full potential. Her entourage and her storm Red's fortress of isolation and reclaim the kingdom, but not before Red plunges herself into the kingdom's heart crystal.
Yeah. So this is the first book in a series, I am assuming.
Yes. So this is actually a trilogy.
I feel like I looked it up. Okay. Mm-hmm. I couldn't remember how many books there were. I know when I checked it out, there were several.
Right. Yes.
So that explains a bit why it's just like, oh, the villain
is she's gone!
Mysteriously gone.
Yeah.
Ooh, will she come back?
Right. So this one, The Looking Glass Wars is a lot of just like setup and kind of like nostalgia of like, ooh, this is all your favorite characters from Alice in Wonderland, but they're different, and like all that factor. Whereas then seeing
and like whimsical world building.
Exactly. Whereas seeing Red, which is the second book, is more about I think there's like other territories and stuff that she's also in conflict with, and then like Red comes back, and then I think the finale is the last one.
Okay, yeah. I love the title Seeing Red, by the way.
He does some great things with words.
That's a clever title.
He does some great things. Fun fact that I found out is that Aunt Red, or like Red Hart, was actually born Rose Hart, and then changed her name to Red.
Rose.
So she was born with the name
Rose. She was part of the Hart family that are like, good imagination and everything's beautiful, and then she turned into this evil queen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can just launch right into the characters if you want.
Yeah. First, there's Alice Hart, our main character, our Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
Her name is spelled Alyss. Though I thought it was really interesting. Once she adapts to living in our world and starts to forget Wonderland, the descriptions of her spell her name like the normal Alice way for a while. Mm-hmm. And then when she remembers her past and she goes back to Wonderland, they start spelling it her actual name spelling again, which I thought was a clever
I really liked
little tidbit
how she I think it was pretty accurate how she handled herself. So she gets plunged into into Earth at age 7, and and
Yeah.
doesn't really adapt, doesn't really try to adapt, doesn't really try. She's just like, I am like this princess, like, and people are just like generally attracted to her, like, you don't really know why, but like she just
Hmm.
has this like presence because she carries herself like a princess. um but like no one
Yeah.
believes her. She's a street urchin, then she gets adopted into the Lydell family. And then it's not until after she like meets Charles Dodson and they form a friendship, she like tells him her story. She confides in him her like deepest, and like he's listening to her like the only person in this entire world that has. And then he's like, "Oh, do you mind if I write it
Yeah.
down?" And she's like, "Yes, please. Like the world must know." And then she reads it, and it's the
Like,
gibberish that we know of Alice in Wonderland.
yeah. And she's just crushed. Like, no one believes me. Did I really just imagine this? Like, I don't, like, I can't get back home. No one thinks it's real except for me. And then that's the point. Yeah. And she becomes a very respectable young woman that her parents appreciate, who's very nice and doesn't talk about silly things anymore.
Right, exactly.
Um, but she's still, even when she's grown up more and sort of accepted her role on Earth, she still has this bearing of
Yes.
like a
Mm-hmm.
queen.
Yeah.
Like later when she falls in love with the prince of, what is he, the prince of
Prince
Scotland?
Leopold.
No, he's the prince of some other
Yep.
country. And he falls in love with her. And she has very intelligent conversations with him about like the role of monarchy and how do you care for the
Right.
poor and how your country is reflected in how you care for the lowly people and stuff like that. And all these things that she still kind of has this hint of
Yeah.
royalty in her bearing, even if she's sort of forgotten or dismissed all
Right.
of that as
Right.
imagination.
And one thing that is very like queenly of her that, like she doesn't really have it as a child. It's like not until she is 18 is like just her like dutifulness. So basically once she
Mm-hmm.
decides that she like Wonderland's not real, she becomes a very dutiful daughter. And she's like going to marry this man because it'll make her mother happy. Like she's like, I could do worse. He's nice. He loves me. I
Yeah.
don't really love
Like,
him.
I get along
Yeah,
okay with him.
exactly. Like, but like, love is not about love. Like, this is just what I have to do. And then when she goes to Wonderland,
Mm-hmm.
then she becomes a very dutiful queen or like princess or like very
Yeah.
dutiful in the resistance. And she's like, I have to save these people because that's what I have to do. And there's not really a lot of
Yeah.
talk of like her desires. Yeah, I think that catches up with her a little bit later in the next book because basically there's the like potential love interest with Dodge that happens,
Yeah.
but she's not she doesn't go super in depth. So we never really know what she actually wants, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting choice because on the one hand, it's something you don't see a lot, especially in like chosen one destiny young
Yep.
adult. Like I'm generally much more drawn to the like characters that are like this is my destiny, but I'm not sure if I can do it and it conflicts with my own personal stuff. And she has some of that. And but a lot of it is more just like these people are counting on me and I'm worried I'm going to let
Right.
them down.
Mhm.
Like, I know my duty is to help them, and they believe in me, and they're all fighting and dying because of me, and they're gonna realize that I'm not as good as they
Yeah.
think I am.
Yeah.
Like, when she was a kid, she had such a strong imagination that, which in Wonderland isn't just like, oh, I'm imagining things. Like, the royal people, especially, I don't know if everyone can do it, but at least the royal families can imagine things into
Yes.
reality. Like she can just think and suddenly there's flowers growing or someone's flying through
Right,
the
or like
air or
someone's
whatever.
food
Like she
turns
can just
into like something else.
yeah, and she uses it for herself and her own entertainment a lot
Right,
when
because
she's
she's
little.
7.
Cuz she's just like I'm the best. I can do whatever. Everyone's so impressed by my skills.
Yes.
Haha, I'm going to prank
Right.
these people. But then when she comes back, she can barely do
Right.
any magic. Like, because she's been on Earth for so long and forgotten
Right.
her power, she, like, it takes a lot, and everyone's counting on her to be, like, the most powerful queen and defeat Red.
Yeah.
And she's like, like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. There
And,
like when
yeah.
she first lands in on Earth, she's able to make a flower sing. Um And the other like
Yeah.
street urchins are
That was
like,
so
"Oh my
cute.
gosh, like people are going to pay so much money. Like we'll never have to like work another day. Like go, go, go." And so she's like
Yeah.
trying to make this flower sing, and after like 3 days or whatever, like it gets harder and harder and harder, and suddenly she can't do it anymore. And then they're kind of like, "You betrayed us. Like you I can't believe you won't do
Yeah,
this
like,
anymore."
you did this thing and
Right,
now you're
because they
not
don't
doing it.
think that it's actually magic. They just think that she's throwing her voice. And so they're like,
Yeah, and they're like,
right,
why won't you do it?
right. And I
Like, come
feel
on.
like that was just
We're
like,
all
yeah,
starting again.
super traumatic for her to be like, "Oh, these people are counting on me and I just failed them." And then like going back to Wonderland and not really being able to do any imagination, which it seems like only royals, or maybe no, that's not true. I don't think that's
Yeah.
true. Um, so it does talk about, so it's a queendom. Their uh
Yeah.
or governmental setup is a queendom, and there's the different houses. So there's the Heart House, which has all of the power currently and the heart and possession of the heart crystal, and
Yeah.
then spades, clubs, and diamonds. um, and
Yeah. All the, like, upper
right,
class,
right.
fancy parts of the royal
And it
court.
says that all of
Yeah.
the women of the spades, clubs, and diamonds believe that their imaginations are stronger than the hearts. They
Mm.
like
Okay.
yeah, so that's like some tension where they're like, I think I could do it better. But that's just because, they're just backstabbing lower families.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's. I thought it was cool that they have a queendom because that's very obviously like Queen of
Yes. Right.
Hearts and all that in Alice in Wonderland, but also the way that affects the world building because there's a neighboring country that like
Yes.
doesn't approve of women in
Yes.
power, and so like the queen, despite being powerful and respected, like is like, oh, I understand politically I'm going to send my husband who's not really in
Right.
power, but like I'm going to send him to talk to these people because they'll respect him more. And like all these, like, there's so much world
Yes.
building
Yeah.
of different
Mhm.
nations and stuff in this world of
Yeah.
Wonderland, or I guess Wonderland's the
Yes,
country, but
Wonderland is the country.
that's super interesting and kind of in the
Yeah,
background.
yeah. Their main neighbors are the Borderlands, and that
Yeah.
they are a kingdom. And in the second book, we kind of get a little bit more into the kingdom. They kind of lay it on a little thick that they are misogynists. It's like a little thick. Um,
It's like, okay, we
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 get it. I
understood.
understand. You're no good. Um, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is really interesting how they kind of bring it up the very beginning, and then like there's a lot of setup in this book. I think that like kind of leads to
Yeah.
like later on.
Yeah, having not read the other books, it definitely feels like, oh, there's so much more to
Right,
explore,
right.
like world building wise, the politics, even just the
Yes, yeah,
characters.
yeah. Which Alice
Yeah.
does. So basically, it's kind of like, okay, she was going to start lessons on becoming a queen after her 7th birthday, and that was when the coup happened, and everything went up in flames. And so she's coming back, and she's
Yeah.
supposed to be this queen, which um she I feel like she was educated in on Earth and was
Yeah.
drawn to kind of like political studies and, well, like as much
Yeah.
as they let women do those kinds of things.
Yeah. Like understanding those
Right.
kind of
She was
things and
very well
looking
read,
into them and
and
seeing.
I think that
Yeah.
is something like read or sorry, that came up when she's like looking for, or when what her mom is looking for a husband for her. It's just like most people, like everyone's attracted to her, but most men are intimidated because they don't like women that
Yeah.
have like read more books than they have. Um,
Yeah.
um,
And that can match them in terms of wits and understanding things
right,
and sort of call them out on
right,
stuff.
right,
Yeah.
but
But Leopold is like,
yeah,
oh wow, you're really smart, and
right,
respects her
but we
for it.
don't. Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
really get a lot of like other than the fact that she's like was born in Wonderland, goes to the Earth for a really long time, and then comes back and like renews her like strength and becomes the most powerful queen of all imagination has ever seen. And like she's told that she's like the strongest her like entire childhood, and then when she
Yeah.
comes back, they're all like, "You're the strongest," and like there's like a little bit of doubt in the
She's
middle
like,
when like
oh,
she like doesn't
yeah,
remember anything.
sure.
Which is kind of
Yeah.
funny because the did you ever see the Johnny Depp look Alice in Wonderland movie?
I don't think I ever
Okay.
saw it. I feel like I've seen bits of it, but I don't think I've seen the whole thing.
So it plays off of the fact that like Alice has been here before and she has
Mm.
forgotten everything and they don't know why,
Ooh.
and like basically it's kind of like those like reoccurring dreams that you have and that you like have to learn everything over again.
Yeah.
So
But it's still familiar somehow.
right, right. So she comes and she's like, "What is
Yeah.
this?" And everyone's like, "Alice, like you've been here before and like you're supposed to feed the Jabberwocky because that's what you do." And she's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And that's the entire like thing. And then at the end she remembers all of the times that she came, you know?
Yeah.
Um
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
this is kind of like that where they're like, "Alice, like you're here." And she's just like, "Nope, I'm asleep. This is a dream. I'm not here."
Like, I can't. What? No?
Nope.
You're counting on
Nope,
me? I
nope.
don't want
Nope,
this.
nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this book, at least, was a lot more plot driven than
Yes.
character driven.
Mhm.
Like, the characters are swept around a bit by the things that are
Yes.
happening in the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
It's not like I have this inner conflict or I need to prove
Right.
myself or anything like that, which is fine. It's just a more like, ooh, look,
Yes.
adventures,
Yeah. Yeah.
exciting, fight,
Like
do cool magic.
this is what the plot like requires me to be, so I will be it.
Yeah, so I'll be this. I did think something about Alice. Like, I personally didn't connect with her
Mhm.
like I
Yeah.
as a character. Like, I wasn't like, wow, I care about these characters so much. But I did think it was really neat that they explored, even after she gets back to Wonderland, she's still like, she's not like, oh, Earth was the worst, I hate Earth, I
Yeah.
don't miss it at all. Like,
Yeah.
she thinks about the people she's left
Mhm.
behind and the fact that she lived there for a major portion of her life
Yeah.
and it affected her a lot,
Mhm.
which I thought was really great. There's a quote, I think she's talking to Bibwit Hart,
Yeah.
um, the tutor who's,
Yeah.
I guess, the white rabbit.
Right. Yes. Yeah. His name's just like an
Um,
anagram to it, and
but
that's it.
yeah, yeah. But he says something about you can't spend so much time in a place and not carry a bit of it inside you. And I thought that was really cool
Yeah.
as somebody that's lived in multiple places.
Yes.
And even when I'm like, no, I like it here better
Yeah.
sometimes, it's still like, oh, but that's part of who I am
Yes,
too.
absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. That just was like, oh, that's right. Like
Yeah.
she has all of these she has multiple like experience in different places and she's the only one who or other than Hatter Madigan. But like
Yeah.
Hatter Madigan didn't really ever like like submerge himself into the like culture. He just became this like
Yeah.
legendary like legendary creature.
Yeah, this myth that
Right.
wanders the world.
Right, but she had
Yeah.
a life, she had expectations put on her, she had to adapt, and
She had a family.
she had a family and a future. Um,
Yeah.
and she does kind of grieve the loss of that a little bit. And at the end too, she kind of like thinks about like her father and her mother and how like yeah, her born mother and father are both dead. So it's not like she has to she's coming back to them and it's like, "Oh, this is the family and the
Yeah.
life that I ever wanted." It's like, "No, they're gone." But I did have a father and a mother for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting that, like, her solution to that, near the end of the book, she's like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, they think I got kidnapped or something.
Mhm.
So she imagines another version
Yes.
of herself.
Uh-huh.
And like a real living version and sends it through the heart crystal that like which is like this thing that disperses
Right.
imagined inventions and stuff throughout all the universes.
Right.
And sends that Alice back home,
Mhm.
who like shows up a week later talking about how she was kidnapped by these brigands, but everything's
Right,
great.
but shit's okay. They like brought
she
me
like
back.
marries a professor at this college
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
Yeah. And like gets to
Which
have that.
is interesting because if that hadn't happened, I would definitely expect the sequels to have them go back to Earth.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe they do, but like also when they talked about that other Alice, they sort of went like, oh, and then a few years later she did this, and then she married this person, and it was sort of an epilogue.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and that Alice lived happily ever after.
So this part is closed.
Right.
This story is done.
Right.
which I think is interesting because it definitely, when Red like jumps into the crystal at the end and is like dispersed across the universe or whatever as just this like evil corrupting force, I'm like,
Right, exactly. Like, oh, are they gonna have to save Earth
do some
now?
world hopping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would have been cooler if they had to like save Earth then, like, because it would have been like completely
and, like,
different
she,
rules and.
Well, and you could have her like talking to other Alice, like goes and gets her help and is like knocking on her door, like, "Hi, I know, like,
right, I know you don't think I exist,
but like,
hello.
we need your help." Yeah, that would have been fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think I have Dodge written next, but I'd rather go to Hatter Madigan because he also has Earth experience first.
Yes.
So Hatter Madigan, the Mad Hatter.
Great. He's, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the word. What is his
millinery
group called? The millinery, which is like hat makers, I believe.
Right. Yes.
But they're like this secret order of like super trained like
ninjas.
assassin guards, like spies essentially that like defend the royalty. And like his hat turns into knives.
And they're like dressed like gentlemen, but everything that they have is super lethal. And like
yeah, it's just knives everywhere. He's got a belt that turns into swords, and he's got like wrist knives and
knives.
It's
everywhere.
just he's so over the top.
It's so funny.
And then he jumps through the pool after her and ends up on Earth. And like fights all these guards.
Yes, and like gets rolled up into a rug. And
yeah, because they're like, he's gonna kill us. What do we do? Roll him up in this rug and bring him to the police.
Right, and he gets like tried in France and doesn't speak any French, and then they like let him go, and he like jumps out the window. He becomes a legend on Earth of this like mysterious like figure who's just like, like crazy.
Yeah. Well, because he thinks maybe Alice is on Earth.
Yes.
But he lost her. Mm-hmm. And so he spends essentially the whole time
13 years
traveling across the continents.
Yes.
Looking for Alice in like different countries,
right?
Going to every hat shop he can find because
he
somehow
trusts those people.
He trusts people who make hats.
Yes.
And just like occasionally stumbles back into Wonderland, but then jumps in the pool again to get back to Earth.
Right. And he only goes back to Earth once, and that's because he finds out that once the book is published, the Alice in Wonderland, he's like reading it, and I think he's in like Morocco or something. He's like reading Alice in Wonderland. He's like, oh my gosh, this is my Alice. Like where is she? And so he goes to try to find her, and he gets there and gets shot by the like army or like the people who are protecting the wedding because it's like the prince.
Because it's right before her wedding.
Yes,
and they're like, who's this guy? He's attacking
so they
her.
shoot him. He like jumps into a puddle and winds up in Wonderland again. And so then Dodge goes to rescue her. But
and he does his dramatic like being at the ball and being like, I'm a mysterious figure.
Takes Prince Leopold's mask and pretends to dance. Yeah, it's so cheesy, so good.
Yeah, but it was fun.
But Hatter is like duty bound to serve the royal family, and he's a millinery, which isn't just his profession. It also sounds like it's a race of people.
Yeah. Because there's what's her name, Molly.
Yes, Hamburg Molly, who's a halfer.
Who's half millinery and half common folk, and he's very mistrustful of her at first.
Right. And so, like, that is his entire life, and he is the best. I think the only, like, potential rival is the cat, which I don't actually think the cat is as good as Hatter Madigan. They're just never at each other at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and the cat, if we want to talk about the cat next,
sure. The cat is also is another assassin.
The cat is this
which is supposed to be the Cheshire
assassin
cat.
Of the Red Queen, who's part cat and can turn into a cat.
Right.
At one point,
Like
he
a
turns
little
into a little
kitten.
kitten.
Yeah.
And, like, sneaks in, is like, oh, I'm so cute.
Oh,
And then,
look at
boom,
me.
he comes and murders the queen or whatever. So he's like, I think he's like a humanoid
Yeah.
cat man.
Yeah.
Like some sort of mutant thing. But he has 9 lives because he's
Right.
a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really interesting because, like, at one point you think he's been killed.
Yeah.
And then he just comes back to life. And, like, the queen, like, it's great because you get the best of both worlds. You get the evil villain is super annoyed that their assassin failed and just kills them.
Right.
Like,
And
in
then
a
he
rage,
just, like,
how
comes
dare
back
you?
up.
And then he comes back to life.
Right. Right. Which I like, so in Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat isn't on anybody's side. He's just kind of a figure who shows up
just like,
at the Queen's. Right, exactly. So he shows up in the forest. He tells Alice where to go. He shows up in the at the Queen's whatever croquet
her, like,
tournament or whatever. Like, he's there. He's just happens to be around and isn't really has no loyalty to anybody, which is very cat-like.
Yeah.
In this one, he's a mercenary, which I really, really like that because he has no loyalty to Red.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
she's just the most powerful.
Exactly, and she's the one who's paying him, which she like kills him a couple times. So it's like maybe not worth it, but like he's very much his own being. And he is connected. So Hatter Madigan and the cat are both like super well trained assassins, but they're not really connected in the story or in the plot. It's just kind of like anytime they see the cat, they're like, "Man, we wish we had Hatter Madigan."
Yeah, like, oh man, that would help us so much.
So
He's
great.
off buying maps,
right? But who the cat is connected to is Dodge Anderson, who Dodge was Alice's.
Is it Anderson? I thought it was Anders.
Anderson.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Okay.
I
believe you.
No, I didn't mean to say it so forcefully. I just wrote it down.
In my brain, it's Anders for some reason, and I think it's just one of those like I read the beginning part,
and didn't just
my brain was like, yeah.
You got it.
I know what this word is. It's fine.
Move on.
Okay,
I do that all the time. But yes, so his dad, during the coup, was killed by the cat. His dad was the chief guard of the royal, or like the Heart Palace or whatever.
And Dodge was like 10 or something.
Yeah, and he and
like,
Alice.
I'm gonna learn to be a guard.
Right. Yeah, like
so faithful to the queen.
Cute. And he and Alice were best friends when they were little. But Dodge loved Alice with all his heart, and his dad was basically like, "You're a guardsman, and you can never marry a queen or a princess. So just get that out of your head right now. Just give up.
You're supposed to protect her. You're supposed to give your life for her if she's in danger. Right. Like that's it. But he's still like, it's like, oh, I'll dance with you because you said you gotta practice dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you this necklace with a Jabberwocky tooth on it. Here you go.
It's just
I'll defend you from annoying Jack of Diamonds when he's bothering you.
Exactly.
I'll punch him in the face.
Exactly. You're like just like the cutest, most loyal, sweetest boy ever. And then as soon as his dad dies and Alice is gone, he's just kind of lost everything, which I think his mom died when he was younger, so like his dad was all he had. And so he just becomes like the cat, like he like charges the cat and is like, "I'm gonna fight you," and the cat like scratches him across the face, so he has these like 4 scars on his cheek, which make him edgy.
He's so edgy.
And so he is driven by this need for revenge, and he, along with the rook, so like the chess piece,
like a chess piece, because that's part of the army,
right?
Chessmen.
Like there's chessmen and there's also cards, card soldiers, but the General's doppelganger, which I think are supposed to be Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't think about that. I was just like, oh, cool. And they can combine into one.
Right.
Because it's like General Doppelganger, but then he can split.
General's Doppelganger.
Yeah, I liked them.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Yes, and so the 3 of them, and then the rest of the people who can find it, or who can, who they've like recruited are the ones who form the Elysians, who are the Alice, like, loyals.
Supporters, resistance against all odds.
Right.
As Red, like, takes over, covers everything with her propaganda and her spies,
The
and
Red
pays
way
people to betray
is
each
the
other.
right way. Better red than dead.
Yeah. I kept thinking, like, wondering if there were, like, if the author was trying to make parallels to, like, communism,
Maybe?
or if it was just a coincidence because it's the Red Queen.
Right. It just, like,
'Cause it's
seemed
like,
like
oh,
the
watch
thing
out.
you need to do. Like,
Yeah.
just gotta do it.
But yeah, she has her whole, like, everybody's turning on each other,
Yes.
everyone listens to her or else gets sent off to horrible fates.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Dodge is, like, going to get revenge no matter what. And, like, he has, like, a couple really cool, like, chapterlets where he's just, like, flying through the crystal continuum, like, dodging
like, between
glass
the looking
eyes.
glasses.
And, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
great.
and, like, being a little bit reckless, but this,
He's-
like, cool hero
right.
who's
He's
determined for revenge and kind of doesn't care anymore.
exactly. He's the man in the new Star Wars, the Captain Poe. Yeah.
Poe
Dameron. He's that of this series.
Yeah, I can see that. Who's just kind of like, I don't care.
Yeah.
No one can kill me. I'm gonna do my own thing.
Like, he's so reckless, and it's kind of like he has nothing left to live for, really, except to cause Red and her empire misery. Like, you know, like, so that's his purpose in life.
Like, he's just causing trouble.
Right.
Messing up, like, the outposts and stuff.
And then once Alice comes back, there's a part at the end of the book where she's, like, genuinely concerned because she goes through the looking... Oh, that was an interesting thought I had. So she goes through the looking glass maze to become the, like, to unleash her potential and, like, full power.
Yeah. And it's sort of a, like, trial, like, get out of your own head, like, deal with your past. So there's a point
where she decides to kill Red. Like, she, like, has the opportunity, so, like, in her head, in the looking glass maze, she, like, kills her. And basically, the overseers of the maze, who are the caterpillars, are like, you failed. And then...
Yeah, like, you're not worthy to be queen. You can't do it.
And she's just like, no! And, like, runs back. And, like, completes the maze, gets the scepter, comes back, and is just, like, doing that. And it's like, did she fail? Was that part of the test? Was, like, it did... there was no resolution of, like, I don't remember this part of the book. I don't know if it's ever going to come back to haunt her. Of, like, you didn't actually... like, you failed the looking glass maze, so there's still, like, a bit...
Like, you're not actually
right, like, you haven't actually
ready.
Unlocked your full potential. Or if, like, that's what she was supposed to do. Like, she wasn't supposed to kill Red, but, like, that was part of the test. And the failing, but choosing to keep
like,
going.
Determination, even after you failed.
Like, that was never addressed.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of weird, kind of left me hanging of, like, oh, but, okay. So there was no consequence for her failure there.
Yeah, I wish there had been a little bit more of that. Because it starts with, like, her seeing a younger version of herself and, like, learning wonder again in the maze of, like, learning to play and all this stuff, and then seeing her family, like, her parents, and being like, I can't get you back, but reconciling with that, and it's sort of this character growth.
Right, and it's just to face her anger.
Yeah, it seems like, and the idea is that, like, she's not supposed to kill Red, but, like, it's sort of weird, because it feels like, she ran back so she, like, could kind of do it again. Right. But she didn't.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, she didn't face that again. She just, like, went to the end anyway and took the scepter. But
But I guess she kind of faces it in real life afterwards, like when she's fighting
she chooses
Red.
not to kill Red in real life.
She doesn't have that revenge.
Which then at the end she's, like, genuinely concerned that, like, Dodge knows that the cat and Red are both still alive, and that, like, he's going to continue to let this, like, need for revenge, like, eat him, like, whether he's conscious of it or not. And so that's I found that interesting that she's just kind of, like, very aware.
Yeah, that was an interesting parallel, because Dodge is, like, dramatic, like, character, like, most dramatic moment at the finale is, like, he's killing the cat, he's fighting the cat on his own terms. Alice tries to help him. He's like, no, this is my fight, and, like, keeps killing the cat over and over because he doesn't know how many lives it has left. And he's driven by, like, revenge for his family, all this rage. And parallel to that, while that's going on, Alice is fighting Red. And it's essentially the same kind of conflict, except the reason that she's fighting is different. Like, she's not fighting for revenge. She's just like, I need to stop you because you're
exactly, because, like, clearly you're not supposed to be here. And she... Yeah. It almost felt like it wasn't a fair fight there. So, like, Dodge was definitely the underdog there, and she's trying to find Red, but, like, in her imagination's eye, which is, like, this cool way of saying that they can, like, see everything. She's watching Dodge, and she's, like, trying to, like, protect him, and then finally she's just like, sorry, I gotta fight my own thing right now. And it's just kind of, like, half doing it, but, like, still her mind's, like, on Dodge. So it's really interesting how, like, at the end, like, there really is no match between Red and Alice.
Because by the time she gets to that point, she is powerful enough to defeat the Queen. Like, it's just a matter of if she will. Like, there isn't... It's almost like... It seems like it should have been that her most, like, darkest moment, character arc moment would have been in the Looking Glass.
Right.
And then afterwards, it's just the kind of, like, now I'm super powerful, boom, 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 I fixed everything.
Right. But the maze wasn't, like, that
when she comes out of that.
Which...
Yeah. I thought it was going to be, like, this
like,
crazy,
take up most of the rest of the book.
Thing, and, like, turn her against herself, you know, those, like, character trapped in a world that's not real, but everything is perfect. You could just stay here. There's a lot of those.
Exactly. Yeah.
Things.
It wasn't that at all.
And, like, don't you just want to be here? Like, you don't need to go help those people. That could have been cool.
Yeah, like different reasons for her to have to keep on persevering. Like, oh, I am, like, either, like, faced with your own, like, fear of, like, you're never going to amount to it. You're never going to be good enough. You should just give up now. To the polar opposite of, like, this is everything that you could have ever wanted. Why would you possibly want to go back to something that's, like, pales in comparison? Like, seeing her parents, like, the way that they saw her parents, it wasn't a, like, but you could have us, you know? It was very much just like...
Yeah, it was just like, oh, Alice, you need to understand, you need to move on. Yeah, or even, like, maybe they explore it in later books, but, like, the temptation to become like Red.
Yeah.
Like, if she is apparently the most powerful queen ever. Like, her imagination is so strong. What's to stop her from forcing everyone to do things
They allude to that a little bit throughout the book, where Bibwit's talking about how, like, oh, like, Alice, like, reminds me, like, a little bit of Red, because he taught Red and Genevieve. But he's like, oh, but she's, like, you know, she's, like, not in the same way, of course, but, like, like, she's kind of, like, mischievous and at the beginning pretty selfish, and not really interested.
But, I mean, she's 7.
Everyone,
like, she's a kid.
Every 7-year-old is pretty selfish. But
yeah.
Moving on to Bibwit.
And now a word from the sponsors of today's episode. As you know, we don't have actual sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor us, let us know. We'd gratefully advertise your real products instead of these quirky book products. Our first sponsor is...
Cannonball spiders. Because jumping spiders wasn't enough, now they've got to fly at you at the speed of a cannonball. Spiders and cannonballs sold separately. Some assembly required.
Batteries not included.
Batteries not included.
They don't need batteries, but they're not included.
Buy your own batteries for your own products. You're not going to get any free batteries from us.
Yeah, come on. What do you think this is?
Charity? Batteries? Come on. Thank you for sponsoring this episode, Cannonball Spiders. Bibwit Hart, who is ancient and albino, has large ears.
Yeah, and has large ears. And, like, remembers everything. Like, he's this brilliant
scholar.
Tutor. He's taught generations of queens how to be queens.
And it's hard to tell. So, like, he's an albino, but an albino of what? You know?
I don't know. There's, like, I don't know. I got an ebook of it that had, like, a bunch of pictures in the middle.
Yeah.
And he's, like, mostly human,
but just has also huge ears.
Not.
And a weird shaped
like,
head.
Weird. Like, he's not part rabbit. He's just An odd
Right. Yeah,
Wonderland
like a
creature.
whimsical creature, which is funny because a lot of the creatures are human, but like there's a lot that aren't. So like it's hard for me to not either attribute everyone as being human or everyone as being non-human.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very odd because there's like
Yeah,
chess
right.
men,
Right. Maybe they
but
look
I don't know
like
how much
chess
they look like
pieces, or maybe they look like
people,
men,
or is
or
it
even
like
like
a
Hatter
horse?
Madigan, who's like a part of the millinery. Like he like looks
Yeah,
human, maybe. Yeah,
yeah, because people in on Earth don't think
exactly,
he's not
exactly.
human.
But like he's a different anyway. But
Yeah.
Bibwit,
Do we want to
huh?
talk about red? Oh, after this, you have red
Oh,
twice.
my bad, my bad. Um,
It's fine.
Bibwit,
Anyway, Bibwit, say what
Bibwit.
you're gonna say.
He spends the 13 years that Red is in power working with Red. Um, and she basically has him
Yeah,
rewrite all of the history books. Um, which is like
yeah,
right,
to make
exactly. To
her the
make it
best.
clearly like yeah, like just like of course, like the victors write history. So just
Yeah,
everything's gotta
yeah.
go. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
I am the rightful heir. My parents were stupid for disowning me, and now I'm back.
But then later she's trying to find something out about the Looking
Yes.
Glass maze and it's not there, so she
Yes,
redacted it,
exactly.
which
And
I
it's just
thought was
like that's why
great.
you don't just
She's like, oh, darn.
why you don't just chuck out history.
Yeah.
But he didn't really have many moments, of like oh like because like so it says in like other like that he like was helping the Elysians, but he was never like almost caught
Mm-hmm.
for being like helping the Elysians, like it was like oh he like had
Yeah.
the day off and so he like went to go like see them and like told them everything that like Red was doing, but that's never a conflict, and he's also just like this like
Yeah.
he's very much like the
Like,
White
oh
Rabbit
dear.
in Alice in Wonderland, who's just like I'm late, I gotta go, and like
Yeah.
goes, and then is just like standing,
Like,
yes,
oh, I'm
like just
worried.
at the tea party maybe, or like I can't even remember Alice in Wonderland anymore.
He's at the trial thing in the original book.
Yes, that's right, and
Like, they have a trial for like Alice, and he's just kind of
hi, I'm
like, yes,
here.
hello, I'm
Just
here.
doing
I'm doing
yeah,
what she
exactly. And he's just
says.
like very nervous and like
Announcement.
oh, there's a part where he like
Yeah.
forgets his gloves or whatever, and he's talking about Polly, and so she's
Yeah.
like, no, come back, and he's like, I gotta go, and yeah, so it's just like very disheveled. He's very
Yeah.
scholarly, very nervous, but has his heart in the right
Mhm.
place. Then there's Red.
Red. Yeah. Who?
Funnily enough, so Bibwit blames himself for Red's demise because he calls it a like lack of education or something, like a failing in her education,
Yeah.
which is why she like became evil.
Yeah.
It's like a bit much to put on yourself.
Like,
but
okay.
okay.
It's all right. Yeah. Red is super interesting because she's also like, even though she hasn't been through the Looking Glass maze, she's quite powerful.
Yes.
And she's great at manipulating people, obviously, but also
Right.
can
And very just
yeah.
overall evil.
Yeah, and like can just be like, I'm going to use my imagination to see if this person is a traitor. Oh, yeah, they are. Time to kill them.
Yeah.
Like
Right, exactly.
very much
and,
like classic evil queen looming.
right. But also very when like out of control, like so she is chaos, you
Yeah.
know, so the world has like white imagination and black imagination. White imagination has laws, and those like laws are like love, justice, and duty to the people.
Yeah.
Black imagination is everybody for themselves, like do whatever serves you most.
Yeah.
And she brings out the worst in the Wonderlanders while she's in power, which is super interesting because it's not just like, oh, these like oppressed people.
Like, oh
that,
no,
like,
we're so sad.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Like, oh, we're so oppressed, and then once the queen's gone, everybody's
Help,
happy.
I'm being oppressed.
Help! I'm being oppressed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they also sort of become cruel and selfish. Of her.
And there are people that profit from Red's like way of doing things, because if you like sell out your neighbor, you get rewarded, and like just like encourages infighting and like the strongest surviving and stuff like that like, whereas when it was white imagination was ruling, it was all about compassion and love and serving one another.
Yeah.
And what is interesting, because at the beginning of the second book, Alice has a little bit of a thought train about how yes, I've restored peace, but it's not going to be that simple. Like, we have a
Yeah.
long road ahead of us, because there's so much, like, because of Red's influence that is still there. And
Yeah.
now there are people who are like, this white imagination stuff, like, come
Mm.
on. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
we so weak.
Well, and she also brings up that, like, even before Red was in power, there were people that were bad and cruel and taking advantage of people.
Yes.
There were people that practiced black imagination, that, like, were seeking to create bad things, or were like during Red's time they like poach the Jabberwockies and they like do all
Right,
these things.
yeah.
They sort of
Yeah.
destroy the like natural world. She creates nature side or whatever that kills plants.
Yeah.
But like
Right,
there
yeah,
were
yes,
people
yes.
like that before. Jack of Diamonds, even as a kid, was already like, how can I
Right, was
manipulate
already the
people and
worst.
climb my way to the top? How can we backstab
Right, and
people?
so were all of the other houses.
Yeah.
Like, they were all jealous of Genevieve, and I think so what had happened is, before, in theory, things were peaceful. And
Yeah.
then when once Red was basically her parents said that she would not ascend the throne, and it would go to Genevieve, her younger sister.
Yeah.
Red went crazy, killed her parents, and then took control.
Yeah.
And then Genevieve beat her. Red was exiled. And then Alice was born, Red came back. So there was time in between where, like, Red was queen before, and kind of like the houses are kind of like unsettled, and like kind of like, oh, well, like, the Hart dynasty isn't perfect.
Yeah. And
And
so there's this like grasping for power.
exactly. Like, should things go south, they are so ready to jump ship.
Yeah.
Like, so ready.
Like and they turn on Red when Alice comes back. They're like, "Oh, she
Yes.
oppressed us. It was terrible."
Yes, exactly. And and they're just very selfish, very much trying to get, like, they want whatever is best for them and whatever benefits them the most, which is very political.
Yeah. I do appreciate that in a story about the main character becoming a monarch, they don't just make it like, oh, there's a villain, and once you defeat them, everything's great. Like, there's still complicated issues of politics and people, like, that need to be explored. Like, it's not just like, oh, we defeated Sauron, now you're the king. Now everything's gonna be great and everyone loves you now, and everyone's happy that you're king. Like,
exactly. Like, and now life is easy. It's like, no, ruling is difficult.
Yeah. Especially for like a young character like Alice. Like, she's very competent and smart, but she's still like inexperienced.
Right. And there's going to be a lot of pushback on the fact that she hasn't been around for the past 13 years. Like, whether or not that was her fault, still, there was a long time where and so therefore she doesn't know all about Wonderland.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know, like, all about what happened in that time, but also there was that time of growing up that makes her a foreigner to these people.
Yeah. And that's something that could be really interesting to explore, especially if you contrast it with like Narnia, where they're like, yes, this foreign person who knows nothing about our country should be our rightful king. Yep, for sure. This definitely isn't influenced by colonialism at all. There's no connections. This is just how it is.
Huh?
Yeah, that like they're like, people are like, where were you when we were going through all these things? We fought for you, and we died for you. Like, so many of the Elysians were like, we're fighting for Alice. Queen Alice was martyred, and we're fighting her name to bring things back. And then she's just like, oh, hi, I just had a normal life, and I kind of gave up trying to come back to you.
Exactly. And I wonder, I don't think the book does this, but it would be really, really interesting if they did. Of, like, conflict even within the Elysians. I'm not really sure if the book does it, but even, like, this group that was a resistance group for so long, the minority, the underdog, and they built up this idea, like, they stood for Alice, but they don't really know who Alice is, and that Alice that they were fighting for and on behalf of is not the organization that they became.
Yeah.
and doesn't have the same ideals and the same morals.
Yeah.
And so I would wonder if, and which is interesting because like Dodge was one of the main people there. Um, I think they might have a little bit of like pushback on like how things should be done, but it's never like an entire like organization being like, we don't stand with you anymore because you're not who we thought thought, or like our uh our goals don't align anymore.
Yeah. Kind of like in the third Hunger Games book, how she's
Yeah.
like the symbol of the rebellion, but then they're like, wait, no, we don't want to do things
Right.
your way, Miss 17-year-old. Like, you don't get to
Exactly.
say what we're doing.
We don't actually
You're
want to
just
follow
a
you.
face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that could be super interesting. Like, there's so many cool things to explore with these type of stories of like
Yeah.
the rightful heir and the rebels who
Yeah.
fight in their name.
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
a very classic fantasy young adult kind of trope of like, you are the king and the rebels rally around you even though you're like 15 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it happens a lot, and it's a fun story thing.
It's a fun
but I
dynamic.
think there's a lot of interesting political stuff that could be explored in that. That maybe probably because a lot of things are young adult, and most like 16-year-olds aren't like, ooh, the complications of political
exactly.
leadership. I love
yeah.
this. Thrilling.
Riveting. Yeah. No,
Like, they're
I
like,
totally
I
agree.
want to fight and have
Yeah.
a cool adventure, which I
Right.
was the same way. Like, as
There's
when I
nothing
read
wrong with
books
that.
when I was younger. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah. So the Jack of Diamonds, I think the weirdest thing is that he wears a wig and thinks that he's cool for wearing a wig and has since
Yeah.
he was 7 years old.
He's
Like-
just, he's essentially just like a in it for himself, double
Right.
crosses everybody, and
Right.
thinks it'll work somehow, even though obviously it won't.
Right. And everybody knows that he is garbage, but still somehow need him, quote unquote.
Yeah, like
Like,
the Elysians still kind of trust him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Because like he would he would try and make a profit. Like he would make a profit off of like, okay, like this shipment is going here, and then they'd sabotage it. He would get it and then like sell it back to somebody. Or, like, I don't know. Or no.
Yeah.
Like they were like gonna
He would, like,
sabotage
do
it,
a
then
lot
he
of
would warn.
complicated
Yeah. Like he was
stuff.
definitely profiting off of this. They also spent a lot of time talking about how fat of a bottom he has.
Yeah, that was
It's just like I don't
felt like a
understand.
very random detail that everyone's like,
Just, like,
oh,
kick him while he's down, you know? Be like, you're
Yeah.
a jerk and you're ugly.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just didn't understand why he had the position that he did. You know, so like when Red comes in and she like sees this young boy who is just like, get Dodge Anderson because he's a traitor and like search him, like she's like, that's my kind of child. Like I like that one.
Yeah.
You know, like that made sense.
yeah, like that makes sense.
But he grew up to not be like endeared to her. You know, it's not like she like took him under his wing and is just like, let me teach you and like let you become this like powerful,
Yeah, like my second in command.
Exactly. It was none of that. He just was still in it for himself. She was in it for herself. Which is probably more like realistic. You know, if you have like a crazy tyrant, you're not going to be like, oh, but she like loves and cherishes and is going to share all of her secrets with. Like, so. But
Yeah.
it just made him feel like it made it seem like he was very unnecessary and just infuriating.
Yeah. He was a plot device for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, we need Red to find out somehow that the
Right.
Elysians are doing this. So there's a spy.
Mm-hmm.
But also we need the Elysians to know that Red's doing this thing. So there's a spy. Let's just make it the
Right.
same spy.
Right, exactly. But it's like, but we already have Bibwit.
Yeah. Who could have been
Part
way
of
more
that.
interesting of like,
Right.
they don't know if they can trust him.
Exactly.
Like, there isn't a lot of like the sort of anxiety and mistrust of your
Yeah.
friends that would come with something like that. Like that sort of like
Yeah. Like,
total
how in it
power
are you?
government.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because
Like there is a little bit with Molly.
Right.
But it's just like, oh, but she's fine.
right. Yeah. And it's like, nobody trusts Jack. So why is he still here? Like, yeah.
Like, why are you still letting him in your super secret base with your queen?
Exactly. It drove me crazy. And it was like, you can either have two, like important characters, so like Bibwit and Jack, like, or you can have one that you develop better, and I think that
Yeah.
they could have done that. But
Yeah. Like, I think if Jack was just set up as the sort of, like, she put him in charge of a bunch of stuff, some of these, like, terrible, like, spying on everyone, turning them against them were his
right,
ideas, and all the Elysians are just kind of like, ah, you were our friend, and now you're
right,
just, like, the lapdog of the queen.
right.
That could have been
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does show up in the next one, as well, like doing more things. Not really entirely sure what, but yeah, he continues to be important. Molly Homburg is my favorite.
I love her. I'm so glad. I was really worried that they were going to be like, oh, she's a halfer, we can't trust her, and then she would actually turn on them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh
yeah.
no, please don't.
Please
Don't do this. Like, please don't make the one character that's like...
that's relatable and that I care about.
We don't know if we can trust you, but you seem cool, but also we might not trust you just because of your heritage.
Right.
Like, please don't make that one character be a traitor. Please,
like, please don't prove them right. Please don't prove them right.
She's like a spunky, like, what, 13-year-old or something?
Yes.
Who's like...
She's half millinery, half human, and she kicks butt, you know? Like, she has been
She's
in
great.
this. Like, she was born when the rebellions, or when the coup started, so she, like, this life is all that she knows. And she becomes an Elysian, and once Alice comes back, she is like, hey, I'm gonna be your bodyguard. And so she does, and Alice is like, yeah, sure, come on, kid.
And she does! And it's great.
And it's fantastic.
And
she proves
awesome.
herself over and over again. And I think...
And Hatter finally trusts her by the end, which made me so happy, because he was like...
He's like, we don't like your kind. But, like, gets over himself.
Yeah, there's backstory with Hatter that I wish I could know, because he has some sort of love or someone that he lost.
Yes.
That's been killed, probably his wife, not sure. But, like, I think it could, like, I found myself almost wishing that she was just, like, a normal person. And so, because there would be so much conflict of, like, oh, well, you can't trust the halfers.
Right.
Like, never. I stick only with my people.
Right.
But also, in his past, like, he was in love with someone who wasn't part of the millinery.
Right.
Like, that would have been really neat and angsty. Maybe it is.
Yeah. I don't know how many people are going to, read the rest of the books, so I might cut this out, because this is kind of a spoiler, but I'm pretty sure, like, it's been a really long time since I've read these books, but I'm pretty sure Molly is Hatter's daughter.
I kind of wondered.
I'm pretty sure.
I was like,
Yeah.
That seems like it could be setting up for that.
Right, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, because, like, it does say that, like, the one, like, some that he loves, like, one of the women in this room was, like, loved by a certain Hatter, you know, like something really sad, like, and, like, that room gets blown up, but I think Molly survives, and, like, so, she's very cool. I liked Molly. She's super spunky. I think she also gets more, book time, screen time, word time, in the next book, because she's, like, still desperately trying to prove herself, and there's some evil forces that are trying to take advantage of that.
You know what I want is a spin-off series, like TV shows do, about her as, like, a 12-year-old who's grown up in the resistance and is, like, training, and nobody believes in her because she's, like, half and half, and, like, they don't trust her fully, but she, like, gets a job at this shady bar and sells information. Like, and just, like, less world-changing adventures, but more just, like, the spunky resistance kid.
Yeah.
I would love that.
She was totally my favorite, and is just, has the most heart, you know? Like, I think it would be, there are times where, like, I think in the next book where they, like, she does fail and, like has, like, some growth there, but they just already set her up to be just such a great addition.
Our second sponsor is Natureside. We already essentially have that with large corporations, but Now it has a fun name called Natureside. If you own a large business, buy Natureside today. Oh wait, you probably already have. Yay, capitalism. Thanks for Natureside. Tropes, there's the older relative who's evil.
There you go. Evil.
That you see a lot. Either a father,
stepmother,
or in this case an aunt. Of like, somebody who's like in power over you.
Yep. But is evil. And like has your same DNA,
power.
but like is different from you somehow.
But like the parallels of like, this is what you could have been. Versus how you actually
have the childhood love interest who you've now gone your separate ways and are trying to, and like, I like how like they reunited and then it was like, oh, this is awkward. Like,
this is super awkward. You're different than I
because
remember.
Alice,
I'm different than you remember.
Goes to, like, she was 7, so, but still is like Dodge is the, like, I think she built up this like Dodge is the only man that I've ever really loved, and like, but when she was marrying like Leopold, she was just like, I can't even say his name, you know, because she like potentially like dances with Dodge again and is like, wow, who is that man? He seems so familiar, but I can't let myself think that he's alive or that I didn't make him up.
Yeah.
What else is why? I feel like that was good. That was a good overall summary.
Young characters.
Yeah. Young character. Yeah. I mean, she's 20 when she comes back to Wonderland.
Yeah, it was really strange because like she starts out 7, and I was like, is she gonna be 7 the whole book? Like that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then she gets to Earth, and I'm like, oh, maybe she'll grow up a couple years because there's a scene right at the beginning, like a prologue or whatever.
Right.
She's like,
where she's 18,
and he wrote the book, and she's upset. And I was like, oh, then we're gonna come back to this point after he wrote the book, and she's gonna like
be on like the cusp of adulthood.
But she didn't. But then she was
a grown up about to get married.
So that was, the time skip was a bit odd.
Yeah, I think
like the way they did it.
I think it was maybe so that when she does assume power, it's not like, and now we have this 16-year-old ruling Wonderland. It's like, no, she's the rightful queen. Yeah. She's 20. She's old enough to have known some things. She's not naive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it was a little jarring.
I think it works overall.
Yeah. Also, I felt like her thought process didn't really change much. Like 7-year-old Alice versus 18-year-old Alice, or versus 20-year-old Alice.
Yeah. Like the point of view, when it's her point of view, doesn't feel more grown up.
Right. Yeah. So it's hard for me to like be like, oh, this is 20-year-old Alice. It's like she's still kind of like flighty.
Yeah. But yeah. I think part of that is also because it's not a super close point of view. Like it's a little bit of a distant narration. And so instead of like being in her head as much, like we get to hear what she thinks and stuff, but it's a bit more of a narrator kind of thing.
For sure.
So it's less of like, yes, we are Alice experiencing these things and feeling what she feels.
Right. Yeah. Overall, still a great book. I would still recommend it.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Very whimsical.
The world is super fun to explore. Yeah. There's a lot of whimsical, quirky things in it that are like, oh, haha, that's cool.
Fun adventures.
The chessboard desert.
Like the caterpillars and their hookahs.
I loved that. Yeah, and the caterpillars just talk like modern, like stoner guys. They're like, oh yeah, hey man, that's cool.
It's pretty great.
Like, everybody shows up and talks to them in this, like, formal,
oh, great caterpillar.
Great caterpillars, we have come seeking your assistance. And they're like, so, like, do you have any snacks?
You got any snacks on you? They're like, I think Blue's calling.
What are you talking
hey,
about?
Hey, Blue! And it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's over there. Hey!
Alright.
Yeah, they were fun.
Yep, hi, caterpillars.
It's a fun setting.
So, thank you guys so much for listening to us. Again, I don't know what I was going to say. Thanks for listening. That's us.
Yeah.
We are, yes, are on Twitter. So, tweet at us if you have suggestions of books that you want to read. You want us to read and analyze. We're gonna keep. You can read them too. It's fine. We're gonna keep on perfecting our new format so that we can like be super smooth and like. So we're trying to get better. So just let us know if there are things that you want to hear that we didn't cover, or if you want to do more in depth and you want us to go slower, or if you want us to like specifically just like hone in on like anything.
Yeah, things you want us to analyze, things you'd like us to see us talk about. The YA genre in general versus just focusing on the specific literary analysis of the books.
Exactly. Yeah, let us know.
Feedback is great.
Again, thank you so much to Brendan Wallace for doing our music. You can find him on Spotify.
Thank you.
On Spotify and Bandcamp and SoundCloud. You can find him as Astronun. This has been great, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.